Hey guys, today we're going to learn how to factor by grouping. I'm going to talk you through a few practice problems, and I'll even give you guys a chance to pause the video and try 2 problems yourself as you check in. So the very first step we're going to take is we're going to mentally separate the first 2 terms from the second 2 terms. So what that's going to look like is we're actually going to throw parentheses around the first 2 terms. And we're going to go throw parentheses around the next 2 terms. When you do group them, I like to include the sign in front just to make sure that we're aware of what that sign is. The next step we're going to take is to factor out the GCF of each grouping, which is a binomial. So factor out the GCF of this binomial, factor out the GCF of that binomial, right? So the GCF is the greatest common factor. What can I divide out of both this term and this term? It looks like the only thing they have in common is an x. So I'm going to factor an x outside of the parentheses, which if I take an x out of this term, I'm left with 1x. If I take an x out of this term, I'm just left with a positive 5. The next thing we're going to look at is taking out the GCF of the second grouping. So it looks like I could divide both terms by 3. More specifically, I could divide it by a positive 3. If I divide the first term by 3, I'm only left with an x. If I divide the second term by 3, I'm left with a 5. The next thing that we're going to do is put it in final factored form. To do that, we are actually going to take out the twins. So notice we have 2 binomials that are the exact same. So what I can do is I can factor that binomial out to the front or to the back. So I'm going to put my twin right here. And I'm taking out my GCFs and I'm putting those together. Now I'm done with the factoring process. If you wanted to check your answer, we could take what we currently have, we could multiply it back out and confirm that it matches. So what it would look like if we did want to check it, which I'll do up here, is we could take our binomials and multiply them back together to confirm that we get the same thing, right? So x times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x, 3 times x is 3x, and then 3 times 5 is 15. Right? So notice when I multiply it back together, I get the exact same thing I started with. So that's how you know that you successfully factored it, if you multiply it back together and you get the original polynomial. All right, let's take a look at another example. We're going to start with grouping the first 2 terms and grouping the last 2 terms. Let's look for a GCF. What can I divide out of both terms? It looks like the only thing they have in common is an x. So I'm going to pull an x to the front. That would leave me with x to the power of 1 and a positive 4 in that grouping. Okay, the GCF of the next grouping would be 2, right? Both terms are divisible by 2. So if I divide that out or factor that out, I would be left with x plus 4. Right, now notice I see my twins right here. Okay, so we're going to pull our GCFs into one set of parentheses. I'm going to pull my twin into the other set of parentheses. So my first GCF was x, my second GCF was a positive 2, and my twin was x plus 4. All right, one more time. I'm going to group my first 2 terms together, my last 2 terms together. The GCF of this first grouping, it looks like a is the only thing we could divide out of both. So if I took an a out, I would be left with 2a plus 3. It looks like I divide both of these terms by 3. So I'm going to pull out a positive 3. That would leave me with 2a plus 3. Notice I found my twins in this scenario. So I'm putting my greatest common factors up at the front and my twin in the back. And that is my final answer. Go ahead and pause the video for just a moment. I want you guys to try this problem while the video is paused. When you're done attempting it, go ahead and click play again, and you can check your solution. Good luck. All right, now that you have tried this problem, let's go ahead and work through it together. I'm going to group the first two terms, group my last two terms. Looks like these are both divisible by 3 and also by x squared. So I'm going to take a 3x squared out. Okay, 18 divided by 3 is going to leave us with 6. If I took 2 of the x's out, I'm only left with a single x. 15 divided by 3 is going to leave us with 5. And if I took x squared out, there's no x's left in that grouping. Okay, for the next one, it looks like we could divide out a, so let's do that now. That would leave us with 6x plus 5. Okay, notice we have our set of twins. So we're going to pull the GCFs together. So we have 3x squared plus 4. And I'll put my twin at the back. Okay, we have 2 more examples and then 1 more for you to try before attempting your homework assignment for the day. Let's go ahead and group the first term, or the first set of terms, and the last set of terms. It looks like we could take out a greatest common factor of 4b. If I divide out a 4b, that'll leave me with a single b right here and a negative 3 in this grouping. These 2 terms, I could divide out a positive 2, leaving me with b minus 3. Notice I have a set of twins. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my GCFs to the front and place my twin in the back, giving me my final answer. All right, now we're looking at a situation where we actually have multiple variables occurring, which is okay. We're still going to utilize the same process. We can group the first 2 and the last 2. The GCF for this grouping, we could divide out a 2, and we could also take out an x. So if I take out a 2x, that'll leave me with 3y and a negative 4. Looks like I could divide a positive 5 out of this grouping, which would leave me with a 3y minus 4. Now that I've found my twins, I'm good to pull my GCFs to the front. And I have 3y minus 4 in the back for my final answer. All right, guys, go ahead and pause the video one more time. While you have the video paused, you're going to try this problem. When you're done making your attempt, you can click play and see how you did. Good luck. All right, now that you guys are done attempting this problem, let's see how you did. I'm going to group the first 2, group the last 2. Now notice in every single grouping that I've done, I have grouped the attached sign. That's going to become very important, especially when you're grouping a term with a negative. So let's see what happens here. I could divide a 3 out of both of these values, and it looks like I could take a single a out of both. So if I take out a 3a, I'm left with 4a minus 5b. Okay, we're going to take out this negative. By doing that, the first term is going to become positive, the second term is going to become negative, and then hopefully I'll have a twin to match this. So let's go ahead and divide out a negative 4. That would leave me with a positive 4a for the first term and a negative 5b for the last term, giving us our set of twins. So our final answer is 3a minus 4 times 4a minus 5b. And again, if you ever want to check your work, you can just go through and remultiply this together. For example, that would give us 12a squared. That piece would give us negative 15ab. This piece would give us negative 16a. And last but not least, we have a positive 20b. And as you can see, that matches our original. So I feel very confident about my factoring. All right, guys, if you need to go back and watch any other parts of this video again, feel free. Otherwise, flip this paper over and get started on your assignment. I'll see you guys tomorrow after the asynchronous day is over.